let's have some fun with this one. I recently got a comment on my course on Chessable, the Double O, Opening Oddities. And this course I had fun with because I went to war with the specialty systems. Those first move, offbeat openings, and typically came up with some specialty lines facing them. And I got a very, very reasonable question from this Chessable user telling me about Anna Cramling's opening that she invented, the cow. With respect to Anna, big fan of her channel. Subscribe, do what you need to do to support her. But we're going to go to war with the cow today, the distant cousin to the hippo. And it does have a little less bite than the hippo, in my opinion. So let's dive right in to the position. So first, let's understand what we're going for when they're playing the dreaded cow. So it's going to be e3, followed by knight e2. And the typical setup is going to be placing a knight on g3, and then placing a knight on b3. And if they can get to the setup, it's a non-theoretical position where you can get a playable game. So let's dial it back all the way to move 1, flip colors around, and understand I'm borrowing ideas from another opening, the 150 attack, and we get this kind of setup by white with multiple openings. In the Sicilian, it's the English attack, but we're looking to castle queenside to create this image so we can throw our pawns at the opponent's king, looking to rip open the king side, place that bishop there, make the trade, and with the rook and queen together, yes, a lot of arrows, we're playing for mate. That's the general theme, general idea of the opening. So as we come back, the main memory marker, a term I like to use in my opening courses that set off the idea. White plays knight e2. We understand the plan that they want to play knight g3. We also want to stay flexible because they could transpose into the hippo. Big fan of the hippo. So, friend Simon Williams would say, Harry, and it's going to put a damper on the knight going to g3 if we can play h4 immediately. So, for instance, if knight g3, kick him, and we're going to go to our ideal setup. And white's struggling to develop on the king side here. So for instance, a3 playing on the other wing. b4, we've got our ideal setup. Let's place the knight on the edge of the board here where we're eyeing overprotecting against the c4 break. And we have our setup where we can begin expansion on the king side. So dialing it back after h5, what about h4? Trying to stop. Prophylaxis against our idea. Knight c6. And we can improve on the placement of the bishop on e6 and be even more annoying by playing bishop g4. And after a3, we're angling again for our ideal setup. And we can further be annoying with the move d4 here, trying to break up the pawn structure. So what about the main line? What I consider the theoretical best option of the cow against the hairy pawn push. So knight d2, most flexible. We're going to go bishop e6. And it's interesting when you analyze this position with the engine, it is pretty solid for white. Got to give respect where respect is due if white's willing to waste time. A d4 break is the main line here according to the dreaded machine. So let's look at a few of the options white has first that are reasonable. Let's say if they go h4 again. Well, we are angling for our ideal setup. This time we're going to go knight h6 first, followed by f6. And if c4, trying to challenge the center immediately, this is the beauty of having the bishop on e6. Knight c6 to protect the e-pawn. h4 to gain a little bit of space. Make sure The knight can't use the g3 square, and if g3 is pushed, we could very well play h3, and it's going to be hard to finish development on the king side for white. So after h3, we can improve the placement of the queen not to d7, but the more aggressive queen g5. Again, we're playing against these ideas of white not finishing their development on the king side. And after queen c2, castles, we have another attacking position. So last, and what I consider the main line, we'll go all the way back to the beginning to repeat the moves. First, we take the center, and as soon as we see knight e2, we want to directly play against the idea of that knight coming to g3, h5, and after knight d2, the critical variation, the flexible bishop e6, d4. We're going to use the same theme of the classical French and Caro-Kann, knight c6. So if takes, I am willing to part with a bishop pair here to guarantee an aggressive position. Queen f6, and after takes, I'm going long. And after bishop d6, black's got a nettlesome plus in the position to pressure just a little bit. And that's going to do it for Facing the Cow opening. Wanted to honor the request on Chessable. And if you enjoyed this, check out the 00 Opening Oddities, where go to war with all of these interesting systems. Thanks.